So in this video, we're going to be doing an overview of the entire multiple choice section of section 3. And section 3 is, in my opinion, the easiest part of the SAT because it's rather simple math, at least compared to section 4. And it's very short, being only 20 questions and you get 25 minutes, which is a little over 1 minute per question, which is, in my opinion, more than enough. So here I'm just going to do a run through and just show you my thought process for every single question. So for number 1, if x minus 1 over 3 equals k and k equals 3, what is the value of x? This one is very simple. So you just plug in 3 for k and we get x minus 1 over 3 equals 3. We multiply by 3, and this gets rid of the 3 here. We get 3 times 3, so x minus 1 equals 9. So x equals 10, which is D. And for 2, for I equals the square root of negative 1, what is the sum of 7 plus 3i plus negative 8 plus 9i? So here you could just treat I like any other variable like x, as I being equal to negative 1 doesn't really matter. So here, always remember that this is negative 8, so you're adding negative 8 to 7, which is negative 1, and because this is a positive, and this is a positive, you just add 9i to 3i, which is plus 12i, so it's negative 1 plus 12i, which is A. So 3, on Saturday afternoon, Armand sends M text messages per hour for 5 hours, and Tyrone sent P text messages each hour for 4 hours. Which of the following represents the total number of messages sent by Armand and Tyrone on Sunday afternoon? So for 5 hours, Armand will send M texts, and we want to find the total of Armand and Tyrone, so we have to add the amount Tyrone texts. So for 4 hours, he sends P amount of texts, and this equation shows the total amount of texts that Armand and Tyrone will send together, which is C. And one thing you want to keep in mind is to not mix up variables. For example, D is very similar to C, except that 4 and 5 here are swapped, and this is a very easy mistake to make. So what I recommend is drawing some sort of symbol in order to be able to easily differentiate between two different variables. So for example, for Armand, you could put a line underneath M and 5, which correspond to Armand, and maybe a line above P and 4, which corresponds to Tyrone. Obviously, you could do what you want, but just make sure to not mix up any variables. And here for number 4, Kathy is a repair technician for a phone company. Each week, she receives a batch of phones that need repairs. The number of phones that she has left to fix at the end of each day can be estimated with the equation P equals 108 minus 23D, where P is the number of phones left, and D is the number of days she has worked that week. What is the meaning of the value of 108 in this question? So here, if this is negative 23D, then for 1 day, this 108 is being subtracted by 23. So if P is the amount of phones left at the end of the week, then 108 must be the amount that you start with at the start of the week. But let's just go through all of the questions or all the answers and see how they compare. So A, Kathy will complete the repairs within 108 days. This is not true, because P is the measure of the phones left, and this here is in terms of days, so the units don't match up. Because if 108 was in terms of days, then P would also be in terms of days, if that makes sense. So it cannot be A. B, Kathy starts each week with 108 phones to fix. This is what we think it is going to be, so we're just going to write a symbol maybe here in order to signify that this is a possible answer. And C, Kathy repairs phones at a rate of 108 per hour. This is not true because for 1 day, there is minus 23, so she only fixes 23 phones per day, so it's not C. And D, Kathy repairs phones at a rate of 108 per day. Again, it's 23 per day, not 108 per day, so it's not D, meaning that by process of elimination, it is B. So 5, which of the following is equivalent to the expression above? So be careful with this negative because you have to distribute it to the entire expression here. So because this is negative x squared y, it will become plus x squared y because you're multiplying this. Imagine that instead So, sorry, imagine that instead of just being a negative, this is a negative 1. And if you multiply negative x squared y by negative 1, then you just get positive x squared y. And because this is positive 3xy squared, this will become negative 3xy squared. And because this is negative 3y squared, this will become positive 3y squared. So we just match each variable. So x squared y, we're going to add x squared y. Then here this is y squared, so we're going to subtract 3y squared. And then this is xy squared, which matches up with this, so we're going to add 5xy squared. So these three y squareds cancel out, and this becomes 2x squared y plus 2xy squared, which is c. So let's take a look at 7 here. The formula above gives the monthly rent payment M needed to pay off a loan of P dollars at R% annual interest over N months. Which of the following gives P in terms of M, R, and N? So for this question, they're trying to confuse you by putting all of this chaff information here. And you really don't need to know this because this section here is what you want to know. Which of the following gives P in terms of M, R, and N? Which just means isolate P. So let's just rewrite this equation to make the math a little bit easier. So M equals R over 1200 times 1 plus R over 1200 N to the power N over 1 plus R over 1200 N to the power of N minus 1 times P. So here, we want to get rid of this big denominator, so we just multiply it by the same value. Times 1 plus R over 1200 to the N subtracted by 1. So that gets us this 1 plus R over 1200 and minus 1 times M, which equals R over 1200 So now in order to fully isolate P, we want to divide this entire, both sides of the equation by this section here. And we could just do that. So when we divide it by this big expression, this just cancels out and we get this R over 1200 times 1 plus R over 1200 to the N. So here, there's a negative 1, so if there's not a negative 1, or more specifically, there's a negative 1 on top of this fraction that P is equal to. So if there's no negative 1 on top of the fraction, or on the numerator of the fraction of which P is equal to, then we know it's not the answer. So here, negative 1 is on the bottom of the fraction, or negative 1 is in the denominator, so we just get rid of A. Here, B, negative 1 is in the numerator, so we probably think that it's going to be correct. C, there's no negative 1. D, there's no negative 1. So we know that 7 is B. And my bad, but I missed C, or 6. Sorry. A pediatrician uses the model above to estimate the height H of a boy in inches in terms of the boy's age A in years between the ages of 2 and 5. Based on the model, which of the estimated increase in inches of a boy's height each year? So per year, there's an amount that the boy increases in height in inches, and A is the amount of years. So just find a number that is the coefficient of A, or years, and you get 3. So it's going to be 3. It's pretty simple. And 8, if A over B equals 2, what is the value of 4B over A? So A over B equals 2, so A equals 2B. And if A equals 2B, then we just get 4B over 2B, because that is where A is in this equation here. And these B's cancel out, so we get 4 over 2, which is equal to 2, which is C. And let's go over to 9. So 9. What is the solution x, y to the system of equations above? So there's a little trick you could do for systems of equations, which is you take this equation on top and multiply it by a number, and take this equation on the bottom here, multiply by a number. And you want to get one of the variables equal to the other one, or the coefficient of the variables. So here look at 2y and 4y. If you multiply 2y by 2, then you get 4y. So if you subtract them like this, then the y's cancel out, so you're left with x and the term it's equal to. And then once you solve for x, you could solve for y. So here we just multiply this entire thing by 2. So that gets us 4y minus 2x equals 38. And when we subtract from 4y plus 3x minus or equals negative 23, and sorry, this should be a negative 38. Then subtract it, we cancel out the y's, and then this turns into plus 2 because it's negative. So it's 5x equals negative 23 plus 38. So negative 23 plus 38. And one way you can do this is just 38 minus 23, which is 5 and 11. So it's, 5 and 1, so it's 15. 5x equals 15, and x equals 3. So if x equals 3, then 2y minus 3 equals negative 19. So 2y equals 16, so y equals 8. So x equals 3, y equals 8. So that's, and make sure this is why you want to write out every single step. I forgot to bring the negative here. So this should be negative 16, and y is equal to negative 8. Always make sure to keep every single negative sign, because if you don't, then you will get a wrong answer. So here, there will be 3 comma negative 8. And here we're quite lucky because there wasn't an option for 3 comma 8. Because the SAT might have wanted to fool us into saying that this is the correct answer. So we're quite lucky because it's just 3 comma negative 8, so I was able to realize that I did something wrong. And 11. In the equations above, B and C represent the price per pound in dollars of beef and chicken, respectively, X weeks after July 1st during last summer. What was the price per pound of beef when it was equal to the price per pound of chicken? So we just want to set B equals C, and because both are equations, we just set the equations equal to each other. And here I'm just going to remove the work we did for 9. And so, x equals 4. And if we want to find out the price per pound of beef, so we plug it into beef equation here. So make sure to read the entire question carefully so we don't plug it into the wrong equation. So here we get 2.35 plus 0.25 times 4, which is 2.35, plus 1, which is 3.35. So 11 is D. A line in the xy plane passes through the origin and has a slope of 1 over 7. Which of the following lies on the line? So the graph is going to look something like this, and m equals 1 over 7. So since it passes through the origin, well, that's kind of important to know. So 0, comma 7, where is that? That's not right. 1, comma 7, that's not right. 7, comma 7, that would mean a slope of 1, so that's not correct. But 14, comma 2, 14 is going to be somewhere around here, and 2 is going to be somewhere around here. So D is correct. And D is correct because this equation for a line is rise over run. And here it would be a run of 14 and a rise of 2. So if you put rise over run, then we get 2 over 14, which is equal to 1 over 7. So if you don't want to draw out a graph and all that, then you just do that instead. And here for 10, which we skipped over by accident, g of x is equal to ax squared plus 24. For the function g defined above, a is a constant and g g for 4 is equal to 8. For the function g defined above, a is a constant and g4 is equal to 8. What is the value of g negative 4? So if we plug 4 into this equation here, we should get 8 out. So let's just plug 4 in for x. So a times 4 squared plus 24 should equal 8. So we get 16a plus 24 equals 8, and here we just divide everything by 8 just to make everything a little bit easier. So we got 2a plus 3 is equal to 1. So 2a equals negative 2, and a equals negative 1. And that is one of the answers, but that's not what we want, because what we want to find is what is the value of g for negative 4. And that is one of the tips that we gave for our 8 steps to 100 videos that you could watch too. So we want to find the value of g for negative 4. So it's so if a equals 1, then we just do negative 1 times negative 4 squared plus 24. So we just get negative 1 times 16, because the square removes the negative, because it's negative 4 times negative 4 plus 24, or negative 16 plus 24, which is equal to 8. And that is a. So 13. If x is greater than 3, which of the following is equivalent to this? And this may seem very daunting at first, but there is a way to solve this. So first, x is greater than 3, we can just think about that later on. So we want these two here to have the same denominators, so we could add them together. So what do? So 1 over x plus 2 plus 1 over x plus 3. Excuse my sloppy handwriting. So to do this, we just do x plus 3, and then x plus 2, x plus 2. And this keeps it equal, because you're just multiplying this by this 1 over x plus 2 by x plus 3 over x plus 3, which is 1. And here x plus 2 over x plus 2, which is also 1, so this entire thing is still equal to this original equation here. And we're just making math a little bit easier, and because now these denominators are the same. So you do x plus 3 plus x plus 2 over x plus 3 times x plus 2. So we get 2x plus 5 over x squared plus 5x plus 6. So there we have a little hint. So we have 1 over 2x plus 5 over x squared plus 5x plus 6. And if you remember something, you could do a keep, change, flip, or 1 over 1, and then flip the signs, or change the signs from a division to a multiplication, and then flip this fraction here. So you get x squared plus 5x plus 6 over 2x plus 5, and because this is 1, it's just the same thing, and that is b's. So first it looks very complicated, but once you understand how to make these denominators the same, and then the keep, change, flip rule, then it becomes quite simple actually. And I hope you followed along with that. And 14. If 3x minus y is equal to 12, what is the value of 8 to the x over 2 to the y? So first off, let's just write it out again. 8 to the x over 2 to the y. So we want these two bases to be the same, because that makes us able to cancel out exponents, because you could do that when the bases are the same. So this is just 2 to the 3 to the power of x over 2 to the y. And then because 2 to the 3 is being raised to the power of x, you could just multiply 3 by x, so we get 2 to the 3 times x over 2y. And here we have this equation here, so let's just write that out as well. 3x minus y is equal to 12. So 3x is equal to 12 minus y, and well, we have a 3x here. How convenient and nice of College Board to do that to us. So we have 2 times 12 minus y over 2 to the y. Because we're bringing this negative y over here, it's going to be a positive y instead. Remember, always make sure to keep track of the negatives. It's really going to mess you up if you don't. So here it's 2 to the 12 plus y. And because this is a plus, we could just split it into 2 to the 12 times 2 to the y over 2 to the y. And these two are the same, so we're just left with 2 to the 12. And that is A. So for 15, I just cut out the work we had here before so we can have more space to do work here. So ax plus 2 times bx plus 7 is equal to 15x squared plus cx plus 14 for all values of x. And a plus b is equal to 8. What are the two possible values for c? So this may seem like a very confusing question, but it's quite simple when you boil it down. So we just want to expand this term here out. So ax plus 2 times bx plus 7, that's just ax squared, or abx squared, plus 7ax plus 2bx plus 14. So here this abx squared is corresponding to 15x squared, so a times b is equal to 15. And here 7ax plus 2bx, this is the term with 1x, and c is the term with 1x, so 7a plus 2b is equal to c. So a plus b equals 8. Well, a plus b have to equal to 8, but a times b has to equal to 15. And what are two numbers that add up to 8 but multiply to 15? 3 and 5. So both a and b could equal either of these numbers, and that is why there are two possible values for c. So let's just plug in 3 and 5 for both a and b. So we get 7 times 3 plus 2 times 5, or 21 plus 10, or 31. And, well, D is the only one with 31, so 15 has to be D. And that was the entire multiple choice section for section 3, and I will be doing the free response questions in a different video, and thank you for watching.